Hello guys, my name is Solaadio. Welcome to the second installment of our Jenkins build server installation. On this installment, we'll be looking at two things. We'll be looking at the integration between the Jenkins build server and Kubernetes, AKS cluster. We want to look at something about the tagging of images, And the second thing we'll be looking at is integrating the Jenkins build server with Azure Git Repo. If you remember, we set this Jenkins build server up on Git Repo, as in GitHub rather. But this time around, we're going to move the repository. We're going to move the source code to Azure Git Repo and see how it works and how it integrates fine. Because there are some cases where some organizations insist on keeping their source code within Azure. That's Azure Git Repo. So we want to look at how if Jenkins will play along very nicely with Azure Git Repo. Okay, so let's look at the first area, which it has to do with integration with Kubernetes. There's something, these are the builds that we've had so far. And let's have a look. This is the Ubuntu terminal. Let's see, kubectl. It's called kubectl. Yeah, still working fine. And then this is Visual Studio Code, where we launched the instructions from. Yeah, if you remember, we ran all these commands to create our resources on Azure and to do all the setting up of the cluster and the container registry. So this is where we left off, and we're also able to ensure that a source code change produced a complete build all the way into Kubernetes. But there's something I want us to do, I want us to look at today, which is how it integrates with Kubernetes and how it tags the images. Now let's have a look first of all at the manifest. Let's pick just one of them, check VAT ID application. So we see here that we have this latest tag on it, and this has not really been doing us too much good, and I'll prove that very quickly. If we go to the Jenkins file here, and let's say we just, in the meantime, let's do a git pull, make sure we have the latest. Yeah, already up to date. So imagine we come over here and we put in a superficial change, which definitely should trigger a build. Then we come over here, we stage the change, which is just a superficial change on the Jenkins file. And then we come along to commit the staged. So let me just write should trigger a build. So that's committed, and then we're going to push it. So that's pushed. So the next thing we want to do is see what's going on. You see, we have a build that's just kicked in. Awesome stuff. Now let's look at check VAT ID here. So we see here that tag 10 got created at 3:39, just about 3:39, and then the latest tag got created early in the morning but was updated at 3:33. So that's the latest tag. So we want to see how it goes about deploying these things. In fact, let's see how far it's gone. Okay, it's traveling quite quickly. Yes, one other thing that I want to do to highlight this problem is, let's go into the source code. Let's go into check VAT. Let's go into startup. Yeah, I want us to do something that will have an impact on the UI. So let's see. So we have something here on AKS. Let's change this to on Jenkins. Let's save it. So that should trigger a build on Jenkins. So that definitely should trigger a build. And then let's go over to, let's pick one more, feedback. Let's go to startup, web API. Let's just write on Jenkins. And then the second one here, on Jenkins. So we save it. So we have two changes here that should trigger a build. Let's see how far this one has gone. Okay, the build was complete, but we didn't really make a UI change. So it will be a lot better for us to check this one's in. All right, so we have these two files that should definitely trigger a build and should trigger a deployment of two new images. Check VAT ID and feedback. So let's stage the changes. Let's commit the staged changes. Should trigger a new build and amended UI. And amended UI. So that's gone. And then let's push it. So we've pushed the changes through. And let's see what happens there. A build should get triggered. And that will be number 12. So number 12 has gotten triggered now. Now let's keep an eye on this. So we've got these up to 11. So we're expecting number 12 to get loaded here. Number 12 on all the images, all these 5 images. We're expecting number 12 to get loaded once the build is done. So that's, or let's call it version 12. So version 12, we're expecting version 12 to turn up once the build is succeeded. So it's still working its way through. Now it's taking a bit longer here because there are real changes that actually need to be compiled this time. See, on these other occasions there were no changes, so it was just flying through. See, 1 second, 1 second. But now there are real changes, you see. Now these other ones, there are no real changes. So we're just flying through now. We're just flying through, we're just flying through. We're just flying through these other ones. So it's pushing these, first of all, into Docker Hub, just for the fun of it. I'm pushing images both into Docker Hub and into the Azure Container Registry. So it's getting pushed into the Docker Hub. We're going to start with the container registry. So yeah, so the container registry is started. Let's look at check VAT ID and see what's going on here. So it's pushed number 12 there, 4 p.m. So yeah, so it's really working quickly through the container registry. Get rates Mongo. Now, if you remember, .NET Core Web API, .NET Core Web API. So we'll see what turns up here because this is where the changes we made. So we're expecting this to change. Okay, so the deployment is complete. Let's check our terminal. kubectl get pod. Nothing appears to have changed. kubectl get deployment. Nothing appears to have changed. and kubectl services. So everything still looks the same. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is refresh this URL. You see, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So we need to do some investigation. What exactly happened? Let's do describe all. So if you do describe all, we're going to see what exactly happened. Okay, so let's go all the way back to check VAT ID to see what version was pushed. We have no information about the version that was pushed from this one here, so we don't know what was pushed. So we see here that there was a delete of the pods. We see here check VAT ID 7. So you see 7 is the last thing that we see that was pushed. That's the most recent image of check VAT ID that was pushed, 7. Now let's keep looking. See, so check VAT ID 7 was the last one that was moved, that was deployed. Version 7 was the last check VAT ID that was deployed. We cannot find any other one. So you see, we have triggered a build and we are sure that the latest version is in the registry, container registry, but we cannot find the latest version in the deployment. So we need to do something about this. We need to do something about this. And I've researched this, and this is what I discovered, and this is how we're going to rectify it. Now let's go into okay, I think we can use Visual Studio Code. Let's go into Jenkins file. Into the Jenkins file here. So in the Jenkins file, we let me just do this. So when we get to the deployment here, when it's time to deploy, there's a comment here saying that with enable config substitution set to true, the variables will be replaced with environment variable values. So if you look at this, we have enable config substitution set to true. Now the image tag here is the complete description of the image, which is the Docker registry here, the image name here, and which comprises of the actual repository and the tag number, and this is the build number. So what we then need to do is we now need to go into the YAML file where the deployment is being instructed from and make some changes. So we're going to grab this image tag here. So this image tag, we're going to grab it and we're going to put it into the manifest for check VAT ID. So we're going to replace this entire lot here with the image tag. So what happens is that dynamically this is going to carry the value of what we have in the Jenkins file here, the Jenkins file, which is the image tag that was being used to create the deployment. That's being used to create the deployment. So that's what we're going to do. This one here might need to make a little change here. So after the first one is deployed, to check VAT, I probably will want to do this. So the image name here, yeah, so it doesn't use the same one. Okay, so for the feedback, yeah. So the image name, we change this to feedback so that we can have the correct tag for this just before it goes into the deployment. Then we'll do the same thing here for get rates. Then we'll do the same thing here for get rates Mongo. And then we'll do the same thing for get app info. So get rates Mongo, get rates. Yeah, so I think, so I think we're good to go. Docker registry, check VAT ID, build number. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I think this looks good. Okay, image name, yeah. Yeah, I think this is okay. So we're on master, so we're going to check this into master. So how many changes have we got? We got this bunch of changes on the Jenkins file. We should have 5 changes on that file. 1, 2, or 4 rather, 3 and 4. Yeah, 4 changes. And then this one, image tag, we also need to cascade this to the other files here on the manifest. So let's look for feedback. Let's put that here. And then let's look for get app info. Let's put that here. And then let's look for get rates. Put that here. And let's look for get rates Mongo. Put that here. So effectively we have parameterized this YAML script, and this should give us the latest versions of the images on every deployment. So 6 files have changed. Let's stage the changes. Let's commit the staged changes, which is parameterization of deployment YAML files. And then let's push the changes. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen to the build here. Right, so yeah, it's triggered the build now. Yeah, so it's pushing into the Docker Hub now. Let's see how we're doing for time. It's about 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah, pushing the get rates into the Docker Hub, and then pushing the get rates Mongo into Docker Hub. By the way, let's see what Docker Hub looks like. General, check VAT ID. Yeah, so the latest got pushed 1 minute ago. Yeah, 13, image 13, and the latest. Okay, so we're deploying to AKS now. All right, so this is the litmus test. So let's run this one now. See, on Jenkins, we have our change on Jenkins. So that change has come through. Now let's look at the terminal to see what version got in. Get services, let's say. The service remains the same, still 8 hours old. So let's look at get deployments or get deployments. The deployments are still the same, 8 hours old. And let's look at the get pods. Now you can see that all the pods got changed, all of them, you see? All the pods got destroyed and new ones got in. Now the reason is that new containers are to be created with new versions of images. So let's do describe all to see what versions of images were put in. You see get rates Mongo 13, see version 13 is pushed in. Thanks to that parameterization, get rates Mongo was 13, get app info was 13, version 13. Feedback was version 13. And check VAT ID was version 13. Now let's look at this one here. You see, that was the latest one we had, check VAT ID 13. So we see that we've been able to introduce some parameterization into the deployment YAMLs, and that ensures that we have the latest version of the images deployed straight into AKS. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't destroy the deployment. It doesn't destroy the service. See, the services are 8 hours old. The deployment are 8 hours old, but it just destroys the pods and recreates them. See, all the pods are now 2 minutes old. So that's the beauty of Kubernetes. And this took a matter of seconds, killing those containers and creating new ones. So that's what's happened. So that's how, in a nutshell, we've been able to parameterize the deployment YAML to ensure that we're deploying the very latest of the scripts, of the images rather, into the Kubernetes cluster. The other thing we want to look at before we run away is integration between Jenkins build server, between the Jenkins build server and the Azure Repo. So this is what we're going to do. We'll go on to Azure Repo and let's see. Let's go to Azure Repo and let's create a project. Let's call it VAT compose git. Let's make the visibility public. Let's create. So when we get here, we want to get a repo in. So we're going to import. We want to import a repository. We're going to import from GitHub. So we need to find the URL. The URL for VAT compose git, which is here. Copy and put it here. We shouldn't require authentication. Yeah, so it's importing it now. Okay, so we've been able to copy this. We've copied the source code across. Yeah, just an email notification that I've. So it's copied the source code across. Let's look at Jenkins file here. See, that's our nice little Jenkins file over here. So what we now need to do is to connect Jenkins to this repo. So I think what we should do is create a new item. Let's call this Docker test, but we're going to call it Docker test Azure repo, and then we're going to pick a pipeline and we'll click OK. Now, so let's call this Azure for the fun of it. So two things. We want to connect. The pipeline script from source control. So let's do git here. It's actually a git. So we're going to look for the URL of the repo here. So what's the URL of the repo? Let's see. So this is the URL of the repo. So let's throw it in here. Okay. So looks like it's playing nicely. Master. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to create a hook, a webhook. So to do that, we need to go into the project settings, service hooks, create a subscription, look for Jenkins. Next. So what are the events we want to trigger on code pushed? Yeah, okay. This repository, master, pushed by any member of the group. Next. And then we need to get the Jenkins URL, which will be, if we need the Jenkins URL, let's go here. The Jenkins server is here. The URL is here. And we'll not forget to put in our port 8080. Port 8080. That's my username. Then we need to bring in a token from here. Okay, let's save this one up. So let's go to, yeah, let's get me configured. Add a new token. Let's call this Azure Git generate. Copy this token now. Yeah, so I've copied it. And it's now here. So that's the one we want to build. So let's try that one. Build token. So let's test this. Okay, it looks like it's worked. So let's close it and let's finish it. So that's the webhook done. And save. Okay, so let's go to Jenkins. Oh, it's building already. For real? Yeah. Oh, wow. So see how easy it was to integrate the Jenkins server with the Git on Azure Repo Git. Wow, this is nice. This is so cool. This is so cool. Let's have a look at the logs and see what's going on. Console output. There's some little errors here, but update dependent status. Okay. Yeah, it's still going on. Docker Azure test repo. Back to the dashboard for it. Wow, that was really quick. So let's have a look at the container registry and see what was deployed. ACR Jenkins Azure. Let's look at the repositories. And let's look at check VAT ID. Of course, expectedly, the build number starts from 1 for the Azure Repo Git, so tag 1. So let's have a look at the terminal here to see if we have any drama that's taking place. Yeah, you see, the pods were destroyed and recreated, 59 seconds. Services remain the same. Deployments remain the same. And let's look at describe all to see the versions that you see. Get rate Mongo 1, see version 1. See get app info 1, you see. So let's check VAT ID 13. Yeah, that was the last one we did. Feedback 1. Get app info 1. So yeah, so the version 1s were brought in and were all deployed. So the pods were killed and recreated. Let's get a replica set. See, these are the replica sets Right now created. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. So we've been able to parameterize the use of deployment YAMLs to ensure that the latest versions of the pushed images were deployed into Kubernetes. And we've also been able to hook up Jenkins server with Azure Repo so that we can keep our code within Azure Repo if that's what you prefer, if you prefer that to Git. And one thing we've not done is to actually trigger a build. So let's go into our Jenkins file. Let's do this. Yeah, let's just trigger a superficial change. So let's commit. Yeah, so let's commit into master. And let's see what happens here. You see the build has been triggered. So this is working very fine, very fine. So you have two options now. You can either use GitHub or use Git on Azure Repo, and you get the same results. Your changes get pushed automatically, and they trigger a build on Jenkins server, and Jenkins server is executing the same Jenkins file that we have used on the last video in GitHub, is executing that same file when the change is pushed in from Azure Repo. So this is working fine, and the parameterization is also working fine. So that brings me to the end of this recording. We're doing good for time. Let's just wait for this to to finish deploying. So it's pushing the check VAT ID. Let's just check out the version that we have. Yeah, 2. And what's the time? 4:28. 4:28. So yeah, we're definitely sure that that's going to get pushed into the Kubernetes cluster. Version 1 got pushed for all the microservices, so version 2 definitely is going to overwrite version 1. Let's see how far it's gone, just to be sure before we go away. Yeah, so yeah, flying through the blocks. So let's say replica set. So 12 seconds ago, check VAT ID, had a new replica set. 10 seconds ago, feedback. 2 seconds ago, get app info. 8 seconds ago, get rates. And 5 seconds ago, get rates Mongo. I'm sure it will be all done by now. Yep. So let's go to pods. So you see that all the pods have been destroyed and recreated. Let's go to describe all. We should see version 2 of all the applications running now. This is still version 1 on get rate Mongo. I think it takes time for it to. Okay, this is version 1 on get rates Mongo. Oh, okay, this is the version 2 for get rates Mongo. I think it just arranged them in out of order. So get rates 1, get rates 2, you see? So I think it took it from the top. Get app info 13, get app info latest, get app info 2, you see that's get app info 2, get app info 1, feedback 1, feedback 2. So we see version 2 of feedback. You see the old feedback 13. And then let's look at check VATID 13, check VATID 2. So you see all the 2s have been deployed across all the services. So we're running fine. And let's run the URL, make sure it's working. So call web API on Jenkins, and that's the latest one that we've got. So that brings me to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I'll put up the source code somewhere on GitHub, and you'll be able to grab it, and I should put the URL on the video as well. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you again. Bye.